This is Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Phetasy. I'm Bridget Phetasy, and you are welcome. You know the drill. Please subscribe, rate, comment, share, reach out, tell your friends, send smoke signals, whatever. We love your feedback, and we want to hear from you. This week, we're deviating from the normal Walk-Ins Welcome format because a lot of people have been asking me who I am and what I do and how I got here and what is Phetasy and a lot of questions. So I thought I'd start this new segment that we'll do occasionally called Story Hour with Bridget Phetasy. Some names have been bleeped to protect the innocent.
Story Hour 4. Here we go.
Who am I, Maggie?
Who is Bridget Phetasy? And how did she get here?
You may have come upon me on conservative media where this podcast is hosted.
Which is still hilarious.
You may know me from my new friendship with my BFF, Glenn Beck. Perhaps you stumbled on me when I was on Ben Shapiro's election special. And you may be asking yourself, how did this girl, a writer for Playboy, a former recovering heroin addict, and a slut about the town, wind up a conservative darling, a pundit, and online trickster? And this is the story, a story for the ages. Maggie's already sleeping.
Nice intro. You've hooked me. You've got my attention. Well, where should we start this story? So
I think it starts in 2013 when I got sober.
Okay, good. Because then we've already covered the origins of Phetasy and your sobriety and addiction in other story hours. You can go back and listen to them if you've missed them. So
And the waitressing.
And the waitressing. The years and years of waitressing.
It really started in 2013 when I got sober, although it really started in 2015.
Right. Well, you had 2 years of being
A waitress.
a
and
lunatic.
Trying to get sober. And
when you were sober, of just trying to
be sober.
handle,
Yeah.
sobriety.
Sobriety is a full-time job when you first get sober. For me, it was. It required pretty much, all I could really do was work and get sober.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing a lot of comedy too, actually.
Yeah.
Which was probably not a great idea. But so 2015 comes along.
Right.
And well, I say 2013 because I pretty much replaced my addiction to drugs, alcohol, and men with Twitter.
Right. And you were on Twitter before
2008.
Right. But you just kind of...
I didn't get it.
No, you just kind of played around with it here and there. You weren't not regularly on it.
Well, I was on it one time when I
Right.
was sick, and I caused so much trouble. And that one time that I was on, I decided it was probably a bad idea for me to be on it.
Right. And then...
I got blocked by Ashton Kutcher.
Right.
By Demi Moore. Ashton didn't block me. He's got thick skin.
Right.
I said that she was a cougar and that they'd end up divorced, which they did, by the way, in like 2 years. I think it was less than 2 years.
Right, but that was during Ashton's race with CNN to see who could get a million followers.
And by the way, I also knew that moment was the moment that would bring us Trump. Or something like Trump.
Right.
Because I was like, I remember being like, this is bad. This is bad when one celebrity has as much power as an entire media organization that's supposed to be giving us the news. However, now that I'm been exposed to the media bias, which does exist, I understand also how something like Trump could happen out of that void, because it takes one person to kind of combat a lot. It is kind of one man against the entire like entertainment industry and media.
But that's also demonstrates the power of Twitter, which it's the great flattener.
Yeah.
Like you can get in touch with celebrities and sometimes they'll respond to you.
Well, I realized that night when I was tweeting at, so they were racing, I was sick, and I was just kind of trolling them and trying to figure out how to work Twitter. And I was saying to Demi Moore, or I said, hey, if you guys are like so into this, why don't you donate some mosquito nets to charity or whatever?
That's right.
Because they were saying that, for they were like, however many people follow us will donate, so-and-so will donate mosquito nets. And I was like, you guys are rich. Why don't you? And then he said, someone mentioned that we should do this and we should, and we're going to match them. And I was like, they're listening.
Right.
I can talk to directly to celebrities. And they were live streaming it. They had their little video so you could see them looking. You knew it was them on the Twitter.
Right.
The Twitter.
And then Demi blocked you. Demi, however you say it. Demi Moore. She blocked you and you were like, oh, she was listening.
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have been so mean. That was also when I realized that they were listening and I shouldn't be necessarily so. Well, I was kidding, but apparently I struck a nerve.
Yes. But then you were kind of off it for a while. You caused a ruckus. Then
I got scared. Went off. Traveled the world, did all my things, whatever.
Got sober.
And then came back. Well, weirdly, Twitter was part of the reason that I got sober. I mean, this story of how I got to here today is really a story of Twitter.
It really is, because every single opportunity you've had since waitressing has come to you through Twitter.
Yeah. So anyone who tells you that you can't, there is power in social media if you wield it correctly. And there is anyone who says that, it's not real life. It is real life. It has given me a life. It has given me opportunities in real life. Every dollar I am making right now, I can trace directly or indirectly back to Twitter.
Yep.
It has literally changed my life. And I would not have a job writing. I wouldn't have an audience. I wouldn't have anything. I owe it all to Twitter. I'm a huge Twitter fan. I love it. It was my medium. I don't think it's everyone's. I think what you should do is find one medium that you kind of like and can stomach, and that if you are in an industry that requires you have a presence on social media, find one of the social medias that speaks to you the most and just devote yourself to building an audience there and getting good at that, and then start branching out once you feel comfortable.
Right, because a lot of people will land on your Twitter page and be like, who are you? You have 125,000 followers.
I don't even know
you
who
did
I
that
am.
yourself. I mean, no one.
No, when I started, I had 200 followers, and those were just the people I basically forced to follow me from, Facebook when I went on Twitter, because they were my Phetasy fans. And it was when I had Phetasy and I was trying to promote my company. And if you're interested in that whole journey, go back to the origin story. It's episode 6 of the podcast. And then I came back from traveling around the world. I was very lost, and I was drinking at the time still with my friend Melissa, who's been on this podcast, Mind Love. And we were hanging out, and I was like, I don't get it. I was whining about how I didn't understand Twitter. And she's like, you just have to engage. And I looked down and saw that I don't even know how he was in my feed, but I looked down and it was Dane Cook had said, girls suck at Vine. Right. And I was like, you know what? You suck at comedy. How about that, asshole? Just kidding, by the way. I mean, he's from Boston. I would have thought he was like, could have handled it. So he retweeted me. Suddenly my phone starts blowing up and I get all these mentions. And I had never had, when you have 200 followers or anything, you get like one like on something. You get no engagement. It's so hard to break through. And I had this little naked Avi picture. It was a picture of me naked on stage. So I think that helped in breaking through. It was one of those things where you're like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's a naked girl standing on stage. And I was covering my parts, my privates. But you could still see that I was like buck naked. He retweeted me, Dane, and I got like 3 days of just piled on by Dane Cook.
Followers on you.
I didn't understand what was happening, but now looking back, I'm like, what a dick thing to do. It was like just some random girl with 200 followers, and he had 2 million followers at the time or something. And all of those idiots with bad grammar came after me, and they were saying horrible things. I wrote a whole piece about it. I'd block me too. It's on Medium. You can find it. If you Google Bridget Phetasy, I'd block me too. And we can link it in the
description of the podcast.
The whole story, and you can see some of the tweets people sent me. And that was the first, I feel like it was like mainlining a drug though. It was like that first hit where you're like, whoa. I first understood the power of it with the Demi Moore thing and watching, them race CNN to get 1 million followers. Then this was the first time I had a direct experience of the feeling, the dopamine loops.
Yep.
And after
got you a lot of followers.
Well,
too.
yeah, apparently a lot of people hate follow Dane, and they followed me. So overnight, my following tripled from 200 to 600 followers. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's hilarious and also crazy. And I took it like a champ. I'm like, well, I was talking shit, so I guess I got to deal with this now. I wasn't like, I'm being attacked and mobbed. And then I just started trolling celebrities for a while there and writing jokes. What happened was I came back from traveling around the world. I was pretty lost. I studied Twitter for like 2 weeks.
Right.
I just observed it. I found the writer Twitter group, and they were the writers in Family Guy. And I found my tribe on Twitter. So the tribe that I thought was my tribe, turns out they weren't. But they were like Julius Sharp and all these guys who were just brilliant joke writers. And that's how I found Andy Lassner and all these people. They were like the cool kids of Twitter.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I understand. This is like high school. I didn't even know political Twitter existed. It was all just Hollywood Twitter for me.
I remember you saying this to me, though. You were like, it's like high school. I know what this is.
Yeah, I got it. And so I kind of treated it like high school, and I was hypersexual and annoying.
Well, because you had a lot of experience moving a lot.
Yep. And so I recognized the pattern of, oh, this is a giant high school with lots of cliques. And there are different kinds of Twitters and different little factions. And it's basically like a big cafeteria. And I just have to figure out what the dynamics are.
And there are the cool kids within each faction.
And then I also realized, too, that it was a drug because I was getting addicted to it. And I'm like, I know a hit when I feel it. And so I read all these studies that I could find that were really brilliant. And I wish I had saved them because they gave me so much insight into the mechanism behind why and how I was getting addicted, but also I think I intuitively understood how to be addictive too. It's like there's a way that I also just observe the people who are good at it. Yeah. So like anything in your field, if you want to, and I really thought I saw it as an opportunity the only opportunity I saw was as somebody who was pretty new in comedy, wanted to be in a writer's room, maybe even a late night writer's room. I just saw it as an opportunity to practice writing jokes. And back then, we only had 140 characters, so you had to be real concise.
Sharp.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved the practice of it. As a writer, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. And so I just kept going and kept like tweeting at people. And I don't know. I really wish that I had like documented how it all, because remember when Ron Howard retweeted me randomly?
Yeah.
Because I posted a picture of my butt at Coachella. It was so weird. It was so weird. I feel like he got hacked. It was weird. And then Judd Apatow retweeted me for some reason because I was always trolling him about Lena Dunham getting to 1 million followers or something. And so I would just, but it was a mixture. I also knew, I understood, and I see it when people do it to me. Like I know my followers, the followers are the people on Twitter who are good at that same thing of like
catching your attention.
But it's more than that. It's understanding that they are going, I mean, things are so different now because of all the politics than they were back then. But back then it was like giving them an opportunity to make fun of themselves. Giving someone that big, like Judd Apatow, like, hey, can everyone follow Judd Apatow because he's going to cry himself to sleep if Lena Dunham has more followers than him. So giving him an opportunity to make fun of himself.
Right.
It's like giving them a softball that they can just share and make themselves look self-deprecating.
Right, right. Interesting. That's an interesting point.
And that was like maybe not intentional, but it definitely, I knew how to, maybe it's just from knowing so many freaking celebrities.
Uh-huh.
I just knew how to flatter their ego, give them an opportunity to self-promote, and also make it look like they were being self-deprecating at the same time.
Uh-huh.
It's a knack, but if you are trying to get the attention of like the bigger accounts on Twitter, that is kind of the sweet spot. Like, how can I be funny, give them an opportunity to be self-deprecating, and give them an opportunity to self-promote and make it seem like it's not like some kiss-assy fan.
Right.
You also kind of have to just treat, I never talked like up to the
it's
people.
It's that sarcasm too.
Yeah.
Always the sarcasm.
Well, Twitter is a game of snark.
Right.
It's like my sister is always saying, I feel like when she first saw me on there interacting, she said, I feel like it's just a big game where everyone's trying to out joke each other, but no one ever wins.
That's a good description of it.
Yeah.
It's a battle of the wits.
It is,
always.
but there's no winner.
No.
It's like, yay, okay, what's next?
But you appreciate wit in other tweeters. You know, like in other people, the witty people
God, when
get along.
It's so funny. My friend and I were talking about this the other day, and he's got a lot of followers and a blue check, which means you're verified. And I'm sorry that this is so Twitter heavy for anyone listening who already knows all this stuff. This is just part of the story.
Who's not interested in Twitter.
Or anyone who's not in, but it is just part of the story. And I think the biggest complaint that people have with Twitter is that they don't get it.
Right.
And I understand that. I didn't get it at first at all. I was like, I don't get it. But it's really because it's hard to break through. So really what people aren't getting isn't the mechanism of Twitter. And then there's all these rules about it. It's like subtweets, and there's a whole, like all of these websites.
Language.
They all have their own language.
Yeah.
Reddit has its own language too.
What were you going to say, though, about your friend? You were joking with your friend.
We were joking about how it's like, he's like, don't you hate it when one of your followers has a tag on your joke and it's better than your joke? And I was like, yes, it happened. But I actually love it. It happens all the time. Even to the point now that one woman, she tagged one of my jokes, and I think about it all the time. And I reached out to her and asked her if I could use it in my stand-up because I want to give people, I don't want to just take their jokes and use them. I want to ask permission.
Right.
And I always try to. It's so hard. You absorb so much on Twitter. And I'm like, was that from my brain? Did I hear that?
Did I read it
Did
somewhere?
I read it? You're always so worried as a comedian that you're going to steal something. And it's so hard to, most comedians I know won't even watch other comedy specials because they're afraid that they'll end up getting accused of stealing a joke. It's so touchy in that respect, and you just never know. But she was saying, I had that joke where I said, when I get told to go back to where I come from, I got told to go back to where I came from when I moved from one town in Connecticut to another. And then this woman said, that's what people tell me when I go use the bathroom in first class. And I was like, that's so much of a better joke. That is a much better version of that joke. I like, I get told to go back to where I came from when I go use the bathroom in first class. Go back to where you came from, peasant. We don't want your poor germs on our toilet seat.
So you did Twitter for a couple years, because I remember it took a long time to get to 10,000 followers. It took a long time.
Well, so here's the thing I learned from this study too. It's exponential with every 1,000.
Right.
So the or every decimal basically. So once you go from, once you hit 100, things get more exponential. Once you hit 1,000, it gets even more exponential. Then 10,000, it gets more. I have noticed a significant difference even hitting 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're blasting out to that many more people.
Right.
And so everything becomes much more exponential every decimal that you go up. So I think going from 1,000 to 10,000 is a big jump.
Yeah.
And then you're just kind of in the 5 digits.
The growing. But it was all organic. You had a couple people retweet you a couple times, but it wasn't really until you started hitting.
I never wanted it to be anything more than organic.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a way. I knew that I had done so many things. So I'd been in LA for, at this point, all over. I was kind of lost when I found Twitter. I joked that I found Twitter at rock bottom. Because it was right before I got sober. I had just come back from traveling. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I even wanted to stay in LA. I knew I had tried screenwriting. I had pitched movies and had them get so close and then fall apart. I had shows. I was on the I'd started doing stand-up, and I basically came back to start doing improv and stand-up, and I was smoking tons of weed and drinking and really doing partied that whole summer right after I got back from India and Sri Lanka. And I just felt very lost and not sure which way to go. And Twitter weirdly grounded me back in writing and comedy again. And it also showed me that I was, and that I could see kind of in ones and zeros how much of an alcoholic I was, because I was always joking about it.
Yeah.
So I started seeing very clearly oh, okay, how many jokes about being an alcoholic am I going to make before I'm maybe I'm an alcoholic, actually. And so there was that perspective on it. And it ended up, I decided that since I didn't have any control over the gatekeepers, and that I had control, I liked stand up because I could write that and nobody could take the microphone away from me. Twitter to me was basically virtual stand up. No one could really stop me from just saying whatever I wanted to say within reason, and telling jokes and cultivating an audience. And so I just decided, instead of focusing on all of these other gatekeepers and running around and asking for everybody to love me and give me an opportunity, to just cultivate an audience there, one joke, one tweet, one essay at a time. And
right. And the people, what you also learned through having Phetasy is that I think that the people who find you in an organic fashion, they can become your most hardcore group of
I think that's true with anything.
Followers.
Yeah. I think it's always the people who are it's you want that rabid fandom. You want to cultivate that little tribe. It is one of those, the experience I've had of I hate the word fans, but the fetishists, whatever we want to call them, it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where, and I've talked about this before, where suddenly the group is carrying you. So you create this environment, and then I eventually got to Patreon. We'll get to that. I created it in Patreon. It was originally intended to be on my website, PHETASY.com. I went bankrupt. You can hear that story in the origin story. But then I started cultivating it on Twitter. And then once Patreon existed, now it's actually a place that everyone can land. And there have been dark times in the past couple of years where my patrons have carried me.
Right.
They've stepped up for me and been like, well, we're here for you. What do you need? We've got you. They've carried me. And that is something Sydney and I talked about on her podcast. Sydney Benner did, she's amazing, and she's a fitness instructor and just ray of light. And we were talking about how it's so great when you create a kind of community, and you're doing it because you just feel inspired to, but then that community ends up carrying you. And so I just wanted to create, I knew I could find my people who would like my stuff. Right. Whether that was greeting cards or T-shirts or just get my sense of humor, sensibility, or writing. I didn't have any idea it would lead me here. And I didn't have any idea that the political landscape would shift in such a way that was so paradigm shifting.
Right.
So that was all stuff that just happened around me. I just slowly grew. I don't remember even when I hit 10,000.
Well, so then you got the job at Playboy via Twitter, right?
That was through Twitter.
So what happened there?
So I was just telling lots of jokes, and then my friend said, hey, I know Michael. He said, hey, I know the joke like the comedy editor at the Playboy website. I should put you in touch with them.
Uh-huh.
He put me in touch with them, and then I pitched him. There was a piece going around why I hate sucking dick, I think is the way it was actually phrased. But it was pretty like hardcore. And it was on Vice, of course.
I thought it was Why I Don't Give Blowjobs. That was the name.
No, it was something pretty.
Was it?
It was pretty like coarse. Yeah.
Huh.
And so I pitched the, opposing perspective, which is a whole other story. And he said this belongs more with the culture editor. And the culture editor at the time was Joe Donatelli, who is the man I will always credit with giving me my first break. Always. I credit him everywhere I go. Joe saw me. He got me. He understood. He just he gave me my first break. I pitched him the thing. I wrote it. I guess I knocked it out of the park according to him. And that was the first piece I wrote ever for Playboy, just totally freelance. I had never done freelance. I didn't even know that freelance really existed. It wasn't like I was out there pitching to any journalistic places. I wasn't online. I was not a very online person. I was just on Twitter making jokes. I wasn't like trying to write think pieces. I didn't even really read think pieces. I was like waitressing. At this point, I'd gotten sober, and I was 2 years sober, and just trying to tell jokes and be a comedian. That was really, I lived in talk about a bubble. I was totally immersed in the liberal comedy LA bubble. And then I ended up writing that piece, and suddenly I was exposed to the internet in 2015.
Right.
I wasn't on YouTube, even if I was trying to make things on YouTube. I didn't really listen to podcasts. I mean, what the hell was I doing? I was just waitressing, I guess, and getting sober. I don't even really know what I was doing.
You read a lot of books.
I did read a lot of books.
You do read a lot of books.
And so it's not my go-to, the internet.
No.
I mean, now it is, but it wasn't at the time.
And you wrote a couple more, I think, freelance pieces, and then...
Well, what really happened was, when was Ferguson?
2014.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So what month was it?
August.
So August, that summer of 2014, I wrote Bill Cosby Raped Me, Kind of, and put it on Medium.
Right.
And that was the first time I ever experienced any kind. And I was only writing on Medium because I had been used to having my website, PHETASY.com, which I could no longer post on, even though it was kind of just up like a weird relic.
Right.
But I couldn't add anything to it. So then Medium popped up, and I started writing on Medium just because I needed a place to express myself. And the Bill Cosby thing came up, and it made me really question. I had this weird reaction to it where I was like, whatever, ladies, why are you coming out now? And it was such a strange reaction. I had to write about it. But then I had enough that piece went huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and I only asked when Ferguson was because it was so intimidating and it was going so far. And then Ferguson kind of, the news cycle just shifted from Bill Cosby. And I was getting all this crazy feedback, and, it was getting shared by everybody, celebrities, and on Twitter. So that was the first time I understood the power of how something that you could write with the combination of Twitter could just go bananas and be spread. Yeah. And that was a powerful moment for me. And it was something that was so personal. It was like a crazy, it was intimidating and terrifying. And that was the piece that I used along with pitching my idea to, and it was a strong piece. It was just a strong piece of writing. And so I used that as a sample writing. And then it also kind of put me on the map as a writer. People who knew that I was a writer now. And people who might have thought I was just telling jokes on Twitter all of a sudden understood, oh, there's more to her than just her jokes on Twitter or comedy. And then I wrote that piece in 2015, April 2015, for Playboy. It was the first time I had been paid for writing since I was paid for my little column in my hometown 10 years earlier.
Yep.
In 2005, $50 a column.
For the weekly newspaper.
And I got, I knew nothing about anything. I didn't even know what a lead was. They were using terms. I'm like, what? I don't know any of this. I'm not a journalist. It was such a learning curve. I at least knew how to write, but I did not know any of the terminology or anything.
Right.
And I was like 33 years old or something. I mean, I was old. Older, 37. And it's just funny that I never really considered myself a journalist, so I never even thought to like write think pieces or anything.
Right.
Or columns. And then I wrote, I think 3 more. I did one about freeing the nipple that was a little more journalistic. I did one, I think the one right after the blowjob one was I'm addicted to porn. And then I did one, it's about being 2 years sober and feeling very meh. Yep. Maybe it's 3 a.m. Maybe I need meds, and just dealing with like depression. And I didn't even think they'd take that one, but they did. And that one did amazingly well. And then I kept begging them for a column. I'd be like, please give me a weekly column. Please give me a weekly column. And Joe's like, no. At the end of 2015, moving into 2016, he said, hey, we have a great idea. Why don't you write a weekly column? Well, if you were going to write a weekly column for us, pitch us a bunch of ideas and I'll pick one. And he picked one, and it was the hardest one of all the ideas I pitched. And it was women date assholes because you're a pussy. And it was all the number one question I always get when I used to write a sex column way back when for Buddyhead for free. It was a column back in 2000. And I never got paid. I was an intern at this website that was hugely popular in LA. But the one question I got over and over again was always, why do women date assholes? I got it a million times. So I thought that would be a good spin on answering that question. And of course, I wrote it, not really thinking that much, but like the Twitter God smiled upon me, and Joe Rogan retweeted it and it went huge. And so it it gave them confidence in giving me the column because I was on trial until February. Right. So they're like, we'll do a couple columns and see how it goes. And like, thank you. Hallelujah. I didn't ask or anything. It was like completely it just resonated. Right. And at that time, again, I don't think I was aware of the culture wars, and I did not think I was aware of how subversive what I was saying was at the time, because I didn't know anything about.
I mean, you knew it was like a little bit, the title was a little bit provocative, but
I didn't understand like critical theory had taken over.
Stuff. Yeah.
All the stuff I know now. I didn't know that I would get piled on by the men's rights activists. I had never even heard of men's rights activists.
Right.
I didn't know that the radical left would come for me because I was using terms like real man. And I had never heard of toxic. I had just heard of toxic masculinity when I did my blowjob piece, and everyone was saying that I was internalizing the patriarchy. And I was like, literally, yes, I am. But what are you? I didn't know any of this. I didn't go to college. I was drunk and waitressing and just hustling. I knew nothing about the like online culture of woke. Right. Nothing. And that was a steep learning curve. I was like, what the? Piled on. And then I did a couple more pieces and they did really well. I did one about why I get naked online, and then like Cheech and Chong posted it on his Facebook and was like, what do you think about this? Blah, blah, blah. And so that one went huge on Facebook, and that went big, and I don't know how he found it. And then they gave me the column, and then it was a weekly column and that was a grind. Holy crap. A grind. And it taught me a lot. I mean, I was basically filing one column, and I was so determined not to show up to that. I loved it. Right. I loved the work I was doing. And that put me in the like very online people. Right. Suddenly I was very online, and that was 2016. Now, mind you, we also have the culture completely shifting around us. So summer of 2015, Trump comes down the escalator or whatever, whenever that was. And now suddenly everything is everybody joked about Trump. I used to say, stop joking about him. You need to take him seriously. You guys are all laughing now, and he's going to be our president. I said this on Twitter. I wish I hadn't deleted all my tweets. I'm like, you guys all think this is hilarious.
No, I remember you being like, he's going to win.
Yeah. And then he did it. Now they're all outraged. I'm like, you guys fucking made him.
You gave him $1 billion of free advertising.
And joked about him constantly.
Giving him the attention.
They milked him for every single joke that they could. And thought it was just so hilarious. And now it's all of a sudden he's this dangerous threat. I'm like, you weren't saying this in 2016. None of you ever thought for 2 seconds that he could win. And nobody, they all just thought he was a joke.
Yep.
And I don't understand how somebody goes from being this buffoon joke to the most dangerous man in the world. It's a weird leap in the brain. So I was on Twitter as watching all this stuff shifting. Now I'm at Playboy during a time that, mind you, also the relationships between the sexes are deteriorating.
Right.
And then Me Too comes up in 2013 was the first kind of wave of Me Too. And then 2015. And then Trump gets Trump is running for president, and now everyone's leaning into the Me Too even harder. And Weinstein's going down. The dominoes are falling as they rightly should. And it's a weird time to work at Playboy.
Right. And Playboy was also changing. They had gone to not nude, like right after you started working there or something like that, right? They stopped publishing nudes.
Stopped publishing nudes right when I did, and then they started again when I got the column, essentially. So I got my column in January of 2016. June of 2016, I was in, so that whole year I was with Joe Donatelli.
Right. And then, they asked you to be the Playboy advisor and be in the magazine.
That wasn't until June of 2016. It was when I was in London.
Right.
And I was there. It was right after Brexit. And I was like, Trump's going to win.
But wasn't that their first non-naked magazine? That was the one you were the advisor in? Because there was no nudity in that magazine.
Maybe.
And you were like, this is so ironic that Playboy shifts to non-nakedness. Right, as I become
But then
the
they
advisor.
shifted back.
Yeah, but after like a year, I thought, when it didn't work out.
I don't know if it was even a year.
Anyway.
I become the columnist in January, the weekly columnist online. January, Just the Tips was the name of the column. January of 2016. And then by June or July of 2016, right after Brexit, I went to London just to get a feel for what was going on, see a friend who was in crisis. And I ended up going to London. Now I'm sitting in a little apartment, a little flat in northern London, and I was working on a piece with my editor in London with Joe. And then this is a crazy thing about media, and it's something I've seen so many times. We're working on it, editing it, and then that night I get an email and he's like, I've been let go, I'm gone, I'm done.
Wow.
I don't know what's going to happen. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I couldn't believe it. It was, and I'm across like a million miles away, across the pond in London. Don't know if I have a job anymore. But mind you, at this point, it's my primary source of income. I would do other odd jobs and gigs to make more money to fill in the blanks. But this was my big primary source. So that was when it was in my friend Luna's apartment, and I lose him. I panic. I go see my friend Luna. I don't know what I'm doing. I had heard about Patreon like 2 days earlier. So I'm like, I'm going to start a Patreon because I literally just panicked. And my one guy on Twitter was like, I'd pay for something there. And I was like, one guy said he would. I'm doing it. And so I start my Patreon in her basement. I do ridiculous levels because I know nothing about Patreon, and I literally don't think anyone's going to sign up. And I don't even really know what I'm going to do on it, or if I can be consistent. I just know I need to. I realized I had been putting all my eggs in one basket. And then I went. It's funny how time works. It felt like weeks, but it was really like 3 days. And then the new editor reached out to me, and I finished the piece that I was working on with Joe. I was going to quit, and Joe, in his genius, like in solidarity, I was going to quit. he didn't get fired, but he got let go, and I was just so outraged. And he said, keep working for them as long as they'll keep paying you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took his advice. I was like, okay, even if he's like, just keep taking their checks as long as they're writing them. And he's like, this is media. This is freelance work. It's impossible to get work. It's hard to get work writing. Just if they're going to keep paying you to write, I want your work out there and you need to keep doing it. So he ended up going somewhere else. I ended up staying. And then my other editor who took over, Shane, he called me. We had a conversation. I was in London. I remember being like out on a sidewalk. Never had talked to him. We talked. And then he asked me if I wanted to take over the magazine, Playboy Advisor. So overnight, I went from thinking I had no job to tripling my jobs because now I had Patreon.
Uh-huh.
And once I signed up for it, and it took me a while to see the power of Patreon, but also I didn't have time because now I got, not only was I writing a weekly column, I was writing a monthly advisor, which was like a whole other thing that I had to take seriously. And not that I didn't take any of it seriously, but there's something about
it required
print.
more research.
More research, but there's also just something about print. So I wrote my first, and they're like, well, let's see how it goes. We'll test. And I was in a basement apartment in Dublin writing my first advisor. I'll never forget that. And it was just one question that I had to answer. And then it ended up being more questions. It was cool.
Yeah.
And so that I continued on with them. But then meanwhile, Trump secures the election that summer. It's the Republican National Convention. Now he's the person. Everyone loses their mind. And I start perceiving a lot of hypocrisy on the left. But then I also start perceiving that I can't write about it because none of the places that I was pitching to or writing for would even really take it. They wouldn't accept those submissions. Like, for instance, why are you... on Twitter, I started perceiving it too. I was self-censoring a lot. I was like, why am I not saying these things? Mm-hmm. Why am I not saying that like liberals are hypocrites about feminism? You're giving all of this shit about what Hillary was wearing, and now you're going after Ivanka and Melania for their clothes and their shoes. Like, it's so stupid. So I was joking on Twitter, and I was saying, somebody said something, and I said, yeah, I'd write that piece, and I would write that piece, but no one would publish it. And then this publisher said, well, we would, and reached out to me, and I was like, sweet, someone will publish it. I mean, this is the part of the story where I really did fall ass backwards into this. I knew nothing about conservative media. Nothing. I called it the National Review. It's National Review. I didn't know. They're like, the fact that you call it the National Review is hilarious, Bridget. It just shows how ignorant you are about conservative. I knew nothing about conservative media. I had never been exposed to it. I didn't even know there was more conservative media outside of Fox. I really thought Fox was like the conservative media, and that was it. I didn't know there were magazines and other things. And the publisher who reached out was the publisher of the Federalist, and I knew nothing about the Federalist. And I was like, tra-la-la, high heel hypocrisy. Wrote that piece. Or no, maybe the first one was about the Koch brothers.
Yeah, but you started writing pieces that were getting published in conservative places.
Not knowing that these places were like considered the freaking devil by the left.
Yeah, not understanding that it was a big deal. Like not having any clue that how this would affect you.
No, I didn't think it was why. I just didn't. It's not like I was naive. And to a certain it is like I was naive.
Yeah.
I did not understand the culture wars. And this is what I joke about all the time on like Michael Malice's podcast that I did, and how I just feel like such a buffoon because now I've gone on all these conservative interviews and I'm like, did you know that the left sometimes has rules that they don't apply to themselves, guys?
There is a media bias.
Like, they're like, yeah, no shit, Bridget. We've been dealing with this for like freaking since Rush Limbaugh was a thing. So I started writing for these conservative outlets, not knowing. Then my job at Playboy mysteriously evaporated overnight.
Yeah. And that was weird.
That was weird. It was really weird.
Yep. All of a sudden.
Because there's this thing about print where you have to be a month out. And I always was a month out on my deadline. And then I was like, hey guys, what's going on? And they never got back to me, never heard. And then suddenly the magazine was out and someone sent me a freaking screenshot of the new advisor with not me in it.
Right.
And I sent it to them and I was like, guys, you could have freaking told me. By the way, you had me sign a non-compete. So all this time I was at the last party, Midsummer Night Dream party at the mansion.
Yeah.
And I met all these other editors from male magazines who wanted me to write for them, but I couldn't. And so I was turning down work at other magazines because technically I was under contract. So I ended up having to push back and be like, you guys are in breach of contract.
Yeah.
And they were. And they felt supposedly bad. I don't know what happened there. And then they switched servers and my entire body of work got wiped.
Vanished.
Now, I knew this
was coming. You emailed me or you were away. You texted me. I don't know where you were. You were
Probably
traveling.
on the farm.
And you were like, I'm terrified that all of my work, all of my Playboy writing is going to disappear. Can you screenshot all of it? And I did. I went through all of your columns and all of the freaking comments and screenshot all of it. And a few months later, it was gone. And you fucking called it.
I knew it. I sensed. That's the thing, is the hard thing about being in the space that I'm in. And I was talking about this today because somebody wants to interview me about being canceled. I'm like, I really haven't been canceled, but the hard thing is that it's also subtle and it's not something, it's like less about the doors that are closing, more about the doors that will never open.
Right.
More about doors that the opportunities you don't even know you won't have.
I'll
go online and there will be journalists who have me blocked that I have never interacted with. These are journalists.
Right.
Like, I can't imagine blocking somebody that I don't know because either they have a block list and I'm on some block list, or they don't like what I'm saying.
Right.
Which is crazy. Like, why are you a journalist if you can't handle what someone is saying that you disagree with? That's crazy to me. So that started happening, and Trump just added, it polarized everything. And in that kind of polarizing moment, I was either left behind or I was left behind. I couldn't go all the way. I remember the moment too. I know there was a moment where I recognized that I suddenly was like, whoa, I have two options: censor, lie, and just regurgitate the approved message and get really good at it. And I could probably kill it. Or be honest and risk. And I'm not some kind of hero. It was really just like, be totally honest and risk losing my job. And and it might have cost me my job. I don't know. I know there was a lot of internal people at that office who did not like me.
Right.
But I'll never know for sure. Unless someone tells me. So then I ended up, God, it was some rocky years, but luckily Patreon had grown a little bit.
Yep.
And then it kept growing. And I also kept getting freelance work with places here and there. I did farm work and other places to fill in the blanks, and I was hustling. And then, but Patreon, I just leaned into Patreon and Twitter and kept growing. And then a year ago, Ben had become aware. So all of the Kavanaugh stuff I was very vocal about what was going on and my feeling that basically both sides were being horrible in respect to considering sexual assault victims in the rhetoric around all of the Kavanaugh insanity.
Right. And weaponizing sexual assault.
And weaponizing me too.
Yeah.
And so it was like just that cultural moment that I was able to be honest about where I was. And Ben had me on his election special for the primaries.
Right. So how did that happen? I mean,
They just found Ben and I interacted on Twitter. I don't know. I think what happened was
Ben, he started to like retweet your stuff a little
2016. I just started once I realized the split what had happened, and I was like, oh, I'm no longer. Oh, I remember when it was. It was Inauguration Day, and it was when I wrote, "Trump is already making America great again." And
it was satirical for Playboy.
No, it wasn't satirical.
But it wasn't what it sounds like. Like the title was very provocative for what the message was, what you were actually saying in the column. Because you weren't being like, yes, he's our savior. You weren't like MAGA about it.
No, I was still shilling for the left, even in that column. Even my friends who were conservative were like, how can these people not see that you're still shilling for the left, even in this piece?
Right. But the title was provocative to people. They didn't like it.
Yeah, they didn't. I lost like 300 to 400 followers immediately when I posted it. And once I saw that video of the woman at Inauguration Day screaming, and she was like, "Why?" That like famous meme, I realized it might have been a little too soon for my message of hope and silver linings. Because I was basically just saying, he's activated people. I've been complaining about how apathetic everybody is. I think it's an opportunity for us to look at what we value culturally. This did not, I said Kim Kardashian made $75 million last year. Trump will be our president in 2015. This is not surprising to me. And I also was saying the left has to be careful that they are more concerned with being right and proving it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy, that they're so eager to see everything that he does as vindication of him being Hitler instead of just seeing him as maybe being a doof and, being able to push back against the things that you really need to push back against.
Right.
And not chasing every shiny freaking thing.
Right.
That was asking a lot, clearly.
Too much, apparently. So then, but what happened with Ben Shapiro? You said you remembered the moment.
Well, so then after that moment, I lost a lot of like big blue check people who I thought were friends. I was like, ooh. But after that moment, I realized that ship had sailed. I was like, I have to just be honest. And then I really just started tweeting about the culture war. I was just like, everyone's insane. You're all insane. And really familiarizing myself more with conservatism and conservative media because I knew nothing about it. And I don't know why, I just like Ben. I liked his whole vibe.
Well, the right embraced you and wanted to kind of make you their poster child for a minute there, I feel like, or you felt like maybe that was...
I think it's just that anytime, they saw that I was having like an awakening, and I think that there's always that opportunity to weaponize somebody like that. And I easily probably I'm still accused of being a useful idiot for them. And perhaps that's true. Perhaps I'll look back on this time and say, wow, I was really a useful idiot for a lot of bad people. Either way, I see it. If I had gone all in on leftist ideology, I might have been a useful idiot for them too. So I really don't. I don't know. All I can know, and this is where my faith really comes in, is that I really, and being a writer who is very devoted to speaking as truthfully as I can and using writing to get to the bottom of what the truth of my feelings might be. I'm not always sure. I couldn't salvage that at the altar of being liked.
Yep.
So I could be totally wrong. If I end up in a camp and like this, not even wrong. It's not like I feel like I'm right. I could just not, maybe there's a big blind spot that I'm not seeing. Maybe this is much worse and I'm just not capable of seeing that. And all I can do is just push back against what I see are people who are not, they're demanding people stand by principles, but not standing by them themselves. So that hypocrisy on the left is so glaring to me. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist on the right as well, but I don't come from the right.
Right.
So I felt like my party, I couldn't even recognize my party anymore. They were intolerant and humorless and prude suddenly. And I didn't understand how feminists could be so cruel to other women. And I just didn't recognize them. So I felt like I was always like, what are you doing? Like, scream. It's like, I feel this way now. I feel like watching the Democrats leading into 2020 is like watching a horror film and going, don't go downstairs. Don't go down in the basement. You're going to die again. And like, they're still going down in the basement. Like, why? I don't get it. So it was frustrating and sad, and also then looking at feeling rejected by people that I loved, feeling like I couldn't get on stage because I could see things that other comics were saying about me online, and they were not nice, and that feeling of isolation ideologically in 2016 was really hard because it was so. I feel like it's actually better now because of people like. Not just me, but there's a lot of people who are like, you know what?
I'm sick of this.
Yeah, I'm not going to like play by these games. Even Chappelle with his special.
Right.
Or it's liberating people to be like, okay, calm down.
Right.
So Ben and I were just chatting, and then his producer reached out, and he wanted me on because as an independent for the Kavanaugh thing. Mm-hmm. And I had never done a media hit. I didn't even know it was called a media hit. Mm-hmm. I had never... It was wild. That was it was almost a year ago today, like to the date or coming up on a year. And that's also crazy to me too, that I'm like, I got my first writing gig in 2015. It's 2019. I got my first column in 2016. I did my first media hit in 2018. I mean, it has been, when I put it in those terms,
it's been
fast. Yeah. And then Gavin McGinnis, they reached out. I didn't know who was even following me. And then I did Gavin. Again, not knowing anything about Gavin. I knew vaguely. People were like, I don't know. But then it became this whole thing of like, well, why can't I talk to these people? I'm a journalist. I'm supposed to be able to talk to anybody and make up my own mind.
And the response from people who saw what you said on Gavin, you had a bunch of people reach out.
I've talked to people's kids who are, and
because you talked a lot about addiction and sexual assault, and you were like, if your child, like your teenager,
looking for signs. He was asking, how do I make sure my kids don't end up like you? And I was like, don't get divorced and watch out for the signs. So I did that, but always there was like some. Not so much with Ben. I felt fine after that. That was terrifying because it's like only now do I recognize how loathed he is on the left. Yeah. Now that I'm like fully immersed in it, there's no denying. But it's been hard for me because I could only take these people at face value because it was like a gift that I didn't have any perspective on the culture wars because if I had met one of the Young Turks or somebody from the right, I would treat them all the same because I didn't know anything about the political media.
Right, and how they're viewed.
Right, and I didn't know anything about their politics or what they said or their past mistakes or how every single thing that you ever say. I mean, Ben's been doing this since he was like 12 years old. So I didn't know any of the crap that he had ever said before on Twitter. About anything. It's like I had no idea. None. I mean, basically for me, it was like coming out of a coma, and I'm like, everyone's wonderful.
But you kind of have to take.
But from my perspective, as someone in recovery, that's how I want to live. I don't want to damn people and burn them at the stake for life. I don't want there to be an unforgiving society that doesn't offer any paths to redemption for anybody because of something that they said 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's not the world I want to live in. I want to cultivate a world where we're more compassionate and kind. And obviously this sometimes runs askew of being a comedian. And I constantly wrestle with this online as I'll be saying this now, but then I'll be, giving Deborah Messing a like dressing down and telling her to be ashamed of herself for demanding that people post lists of her fellow Americans. So it's tricky because I occupy a weird space where I'm not really a pundit and I'm a comedian, but it's just a weird space. So
Right.
it's not always that people, I think, have a right to criticize me for being a hypocrite, because I'm sure I am all the time. It's been a very interesting. And then Glenn asked me to go on his
Right.
show, and we had such a great rapport, and I don't know anything about him other than South Park made fun of him once. You know, like I'm like, oh, it's Glenn Beck. Like I figure all these people are kind of parodies of themselves. I didn't really, and now everything's so serious and it's like a war, you know, a virtual war. But that's the other weird thing, is that it's this weird virtual war where I'm like, does anyone leave their house and go out anymore? Because when I'm out in the world, what has changed for you? What has changed for anyone, really? Other than like in LA, maybe your portfolio went up more. And if you're an illegal, maybe you're nervous. But like the average American, what has actually changed in their life since Trump became president, other than these extreme examples of mobs, like little micro mobs, or on both sides going after you for saying something? So it's been, that's how I ended up here. I mean, in a nutshell, I did Ben's thing, then I did a bunch of media hits, and now I've been writing a lot, and now I have a column at Spectator.
Right. And you've been getting a lot of people soliciting you for articles about
I've not been canceled by any means, and I'm not sitting here like being I never want people to think that I'm a victim in any sense. I definitely think that there, might have been reasons, but even if I didn't fully understand the risk I was taking by posting those things in the Federalist, because I had no concept of what the Federalist was, I was aware that I was afraid of saying those things for a reason. So I wasn't totally blind in thinking there are consequences for free speech. I wasn't totally blind in thinking that maybe when I share these opinions, it will change my job opportunities. You and I have had this conversation. We had a management for writing, and I was like, the more I go down this path, the less likely we're ever going to get a job in a writer's room, and I don't want to hinder us. So I can I can't shut up ever. But
no, we had that conversation.
Yeah. So it's something I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But I also, again, trust God. I trust that every morning I do one thing, and I get on my knees and I say the third step prayer, and I say, God, I offer myself to thee to do with me and to build with me as thy will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy love, thy power, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And it just I said it right before they called me to get on Glenn Beck, and I got down on my knees in the dressing room and said that prayer, because I was like, it was a whole other level, and I knew that he was even another level of like toxic, untouchable in today's climate. And I have to trust that these things, I get accused of being a grifter all the time. And if anything, I've given up more opportunities than I have received any monetary compensation for in making these choices to go talk to these people. I've sacrificed a lot of money potentially on, I could have just shut up and never talked about politics, and we might be writing in a writer's room. Right. I could have just started telling stupid jokes about Trump and being,
going on a comedy tour or something.
Gone all in on that. I could be on a late night. I don't know. If I had played the game and not and spoken the message that's kind of approved in LA, who knows where I might be. I know that I could apply that same mental faculty I have that I'm using just on a daily basis, being honest, to being a really great fucking liar. And honestly, when I laugh when the left calls me a grifter, because I'm like, if I was really a fucking grifter, I would be working in a writer's room right now or on a late night show. Right. That would be my grift. I'd be all in on the fucking hashtag resistance stuff.
And you'd be
killing it.
A grifter in hiding.
No, I would be like upheld as some kind,
right. It'd be like, but underneath you'd feel like a grifter.
Yeah. I don't feel like a grifter. I feel like I've taken and again, it's not like, oh, I'm some victim. I know I've made these choices, but I just laugh. I'm like, if I'm a grifter, I'm horrible at it. I'm not making, grifters make money. I have supporters, people who allow me to do what I can do, and they are my patrons. People that is my primary source of income because people recognize that I'm not grifting. I have sacrificed things to be able to just speak honestly, and they want me to continue speaking honestly.
Right.
So here I am.
Yeah.
That's the story, guys. Now you have the whole long ass thing.
And we will do a story hour about your travels at some point too.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people are like, how the hell did you end up here?
Who is this girl?
I fell ass backwards into it, truly. It was
not intentional.
Not intentional. No. I mean, there are plenty of people out there who are like, I want to be a conservative media person and I want to get media hits. And that was never even on my radar. It's truly like God's will. I'm like, okay, what's next? I just keep saying yes and hope that I don't hurt people. And I might unintentionally. And that's life. It's time for the weekly check-in with Bridget and cousin Maggie.
Check-in. So... your dumpster fire is doing well.
I love it so much.
The dumpster fire. I love it too. I mean, it's so fun. It's so fun to do.
It's just fun. I mean, you and I are always better when we're creative. It's a little bananas. I mean, nuts. I'm underwater right now.
It's
and
a lot. It's a lot.
You and Sam are both working normal jobs and editing in your spare time. You're editing the podcast and you're editing now the partially dumpster fire. Sam's picked up some of the slack there and
Sam
helping
and I
us.
are splitting editorial duties on that, and then there's all the like other stuff we're trying to put on YouTube and make the channel a little bit deeper and trying to get stuff on Patreon still. It's a lot, but it's work I want to do. Yeah.
It's that in between where we have a startup company, which we do, and now we have to do the work of 10 people amongst 3 of us. And also we have to create content on a weekly basis. And also I have to keep writing.
Right. We all have day
jobs. And I have to keep up on Twitter now to keep up on the dumpster fire. And on top of it, get the actual business part nailed down.
Squared away.
And it's awesome.
Finish your book proposal. And
it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I mean,
I have no complaint. This is fully the life I want to live.
It's a beast. It's also a learning curve. It's always harder at the beginning when you start something new. We will cut down on the time it takes us. We will get better. We will get better equipment. We will do all of the things.
Yeah, the podcast is pretty streamlined, and I think it'll take it. How long do you think it took for the podcast to get to a point where it was like, we're ahead, we have some in the can?
It was definitely a few months, even almost 6 months in, where it wasn't a scramble every time. But it's just that now that's like part of our routine. It's adding something else in, and this is just what we want. It's what we want.
Yeah.
Content creation, fun stuff that we get to do and play and that makes us laugh and joke around. And then we find out it makes other people laugh too. That's awesome.
I just love the dumpster fire because it's really my Twitter on video. It just is like if I could jump off Twitter and be, they can hear me. I feel like people will have a better sense of how I tweet if they can see me and hear my tone. They'll know how to read my tweets. They'll be like, oh, that's just Bridget being like this instead of being all outraged.
And we relaunched the South Park, Lost South Park this week. God, it's been busy.
No, it's been nuts.
And that was...
I filed a column yesterday.
Yeah.
Another one I'm filing tonight.
Writing.
Another one I'm filing by the end of the week. It's nuts. I still have to finish my proposal. It's awesome. I have no love life. None. Zero love life. I went out to dinner. It's so hard because I'll go on a date and I like can't even, all I want to do is, all I can think about is work.
Right.
And I think there will come a time where there's more of a work-life balance. But as I was talking to my uncle last night, about. He's like, no, this is when you put the pedal to the metal and you only work.
Right.
You know, he's like, I had those years as a lawyer where it was just all I did. I put my head down and you work.
Yeah.
And that's all you can really do because these are my
startup.
earning years.
Yeah. And it's been fun.
No, it's fun. We love all of your support, you guys, and listeners, and always the best thing. If you want to support, great. If you want to donate to our Patreon, that's awesome. The more people that subscribe at the $5 and $10 levels, the more it's going to free us up to do this full time.
Right.
I would love to move into daily dumpster fire, although that makes Sam and Maggie want to kill me. But
That's putting the cart before the horse.
No, I mean, that's what I'm moving towards.
Well, yeah, obviously, I'd love to get there too. That would mean that this was our full-time job.
Of course. And that's what I'd like to get to. And if we can get, people to sign on, I love that. But more than anything, I really love just hearing from everybody. And if you tell one person about us, that's more important to me because word of mouth is more powerful than anything.
Right.
And so if you tell one of your friends about your weird chick and chicks that you follow who are doing all this crazy stuff in LA, trying to
find it entertaining.
Yeah, you think it's funny or you like the podcast because of it moves you or makes you think or question things or whatever. That's the juice right there.
Yeah,
it keeps
the best
me
way
going.
to show your support.
I love when I hear from somebody who heard about us from one of the fans. Like, oh, this girl, and they'll name whoever, one of our like long time, and they're like, they told me about you, and now I'm like addicted and binging, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. They don't feel like fans though. They're like
they're like buddies. They're friends.
I mean, in many cases, most of them are becoming my buddies. So I really appreciate everybody's support and also all of your enthusiasm because I know it's going to get kind of wild and crazy.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I know it will get crazy.
Yeah, it's with you involved, it's always going to get crazy. Yeah.
I'm not big enough for anyone to care about what I say.
There's no way to predict. We just need to keep going.
I can predict that there will come a time.
Right, it will get crazy. That's the only thing that we can predict. But there's no way to predict which way it's going to get crazy or which path it's going to take or what is going to happen.
In this simulation, I end up with Donnie Jr. Because I made a video joking about his dad needing to identify as a woman.
Yes. If you haven't caught that on Twitter or in the dumpster fire, take a look. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what we've been doing. We've been working.
Working hard.
Holy crap. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of content to put out in 1 week.
It's
one
a
podcast.
lot.
And I know we need you to get ahead on the podcast so you can breathe a little.
But even if I get ahead, it's still like I still have to do one per week. Otherwise I'd get behind. I'd lose my head.
We need you to go into a K-hole and
I'm already in an editing K-hole.
I need to get you out of your job. If you're listening, I'm coming for your worker. I'm coming for her.
It's good though. I like it. I do love editing. Sam and I were talking about it yesterday. It's so fun.
I love the final cut we do with the three of us.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. When Maggie and Sam roast me and
we're all just sitting there making the final tweaks and touches.
And how to make it funny and adding the line. That's my favorite part.
Yep.
I love it all.
Makes us laugh.
That's always been our only standard.
It just needs to be brilliant and hilarious.
For us. But I was thinking about that for today when I was driving home from the podcast. I did the Babylon Bee podcast today, so keep an eye out for that. Those guys are great, and I love them. We had so much fun, actually, because they're satirists, so it was just, like, hilarious. They did this whole riff about how it was, they're like, there are two types of people in this world, people who know of Bridget Phetasy and people who don't. And they were saying it was Bridget Awareness Day, and, like, they wanted to get ribbons. It was just so funny. They're just funny, so quick.
But you were thinking about what makes us laugh and being brilliant and hilarious.
I was laughing just on the way home because I'm like, I'm so glad other people get a kick out of it because it's so very us. Like Maggie and I have always made these things that are just, we're like, we just refuse to be. I mean, talk about tenacious and refusing to wait for gatekeepers. We're like, you know what? We'll film this with a flip video.
The South Park.
Yeah, with a flip video and pillow fight.
And the funny thing about South Park too is if you watch it, I don't know, you don't have to, but if you watch it from Act 1 to Act 3, it got progressively more elaborate. And because we started adding like, it's hard to tell between Kyle and Stan. Yeah. So we had the South Park calendar. So we like cut up all the figures and Bridget started doing puppets basically. And it just
got
became
out of control.
So much more elaborate from one act. From start to finish. And it took us a week to make when we were both waitressing.
And then I was thinking, we've always done it just to like keep ourselves sane, honestly. That was like Phetasy, even Phetasy. Going back to like the cards.
The cards.
We were reading all the old greeting cards that we have that were on our website because the original website had all these e-cards that they were awesome. And now I still have all the designs and want to print them someday. And if I theoretically ever have money. And they're amazing.
I was looking at them the other day, funny. And Bridget was like, "Oh yeah, I was looking at them. They're so funny." I mean, I still love them so much. We have so many ideas. It's fun to make.
And the T-shirts. Where is that designer of mine? God, wrangling artists. If you know any graphic designers who are amazing, please send them our way.
Brilliant.
I have a brilliant graphic designer, but like all brilliant graphic designers, they're like wrangling cats. And I need somebody who can help me crank out these T-shirts because this homeboy is...
The time has come.
Yeah.
The time has come to get some T-shirts out there.
He's like, I'm like, oh, this is what it must feel like dealing with me with my writing. This is my karma.
What did your editor say to you? He's like...
Yeah, I'm all the worst combinations of excuses.
No, where he was like... I want you to stop writing the other article you're supposed to be writing for me, but not and focus on this article, but actually write it.
Yeah. I was like, that's not good. That is not good. I'm like, that's not good. I don't want to be like that.
No. But obviously, like you said, we've got a lot going on. It's been busy.
Yeah. But thank you guys. I mean, honestly, every message, every email, every comment on the videos, it's so encouraging.
It helps. It
really does.
Helps.
It's like running a marathon and having people be like, you can do it. You've only got 13 more miles. I'm like, yay.
Yeah. And we're running a marathon that we have no idea how long it is. There's no end in sight. We just have to keep going.
We're running a marathon of an undetermined length and time.
And we're not really sure how steep the hill is.
I've been running it for over 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really is. You guys are the Dixie cups of water on the long trail.
So thank you.
Tune in next week for another riveting episode that will change your life, help you get out of your own way, and solve all the world's problems. I want to thank Ricochet, my co-producer and cousin Maggie, and all of you out there listening. This has been Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Phetasy. I'm Bridget Phetasy, and you're welcome. It's the dumbest line.